welcome to My Chemical Fancast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Haley.
And this is a podcast about all things My Chemical Romance. Today we have something special, which is an interview with Cassie Whitt, who has described herself as in the shit with MCR.
In the shit.
During all of the early 2000s. Is that about right?
Yes, that's it.
She has been all up in the MCR fandom for quite a while, and she has also written for actual music magazines, such as Alt Press. You may know her as Cassie the Venomous. Hello.
Hi. It me.
Yeah,
so these lovely ladies told me to write a bio about myself, and what I didn't do was write a bio about myself. So I guess that was a lovely intro. And the reason we say in the shit, we were joking about the making of the Ghost of You video, and Gerard Way was like, oh, we're in the shit for sure. Like, and you guys might hear me use that like Gerard imitation voice because I can't quote him without doing that. But yeah, so
Please
I'm
do.
Cassie the Venomous. I've run an MCR blog for a while. I started MCR Chat. I saw them on the Revenge Tour like 8 times, so I've been around forever. And yeah, so I'm excited to be here. Hello.
Hello.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I became aware of Cassie's existence. So I started following Cassie on Tumblr when I was 16, I think. And I've just kind of followed the trajectory of her career since I was 16. And, you know, when she was in school, and then when she started working with Alt Press, and then she started doing like interviews with these big names and doing MCR Chat, which I was very active in. You know, I've just been following kind of her career built around being an MCR fan for so long, and I love you, Cassie.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's really weird to me to like, not weird, but like exciting to know that people care about me and like what I've done.
For sure.
It's a thing. And I didn't have any friends growing up. So I wasn't like in the MCR fandom as such, because I think to do that, you sort of need at least one person to bounce off of. So I became aware of Cassie later, but I think the first time maybe, or one of the first times that I remember, is I think you wrote an article maybe in Alt Press about a Frank show, probably like a celebration show. And I think it made me cry. And that's the first time.
Oh yeah, I remember that article.
That article made a lot of people cry, including myself.
It was so good.
There's like, I think I fit in like maybe a couple quotes from Frank, but I really was like, the article's about me just sort of growing up and hitting like the age of 25 and feeling like it was a big landmark and dealing with mental health, but not having the resources of a teenager and feeling like it was kind of too late for me to get help. And in the show, I was feeling really isolated and stuff. And then the music kicked in and it was just like, oh, I'm alive, you know? And I talked to Frank at the end of the show and I told him, you know, how bad things had gotten. And he was just like really sweet and supportive and just like, you know what? You have to wake up every day and you have to appreciate little things like eating cereal with your kids. So yeah, I cried tears. But maybe I think that was like the fastest story I've ever written. Like I went home and I like banged it out and I had it ready the next day because it was like such an experience. But yeah, thank you for reading that.
Yeah.
I think it gelled with our experiences of Frank shows also. I think that we feel that way too when we go to them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I always tell, you know, people who are also MCR fans who will understand this, Frank shows and, you know, just kind of shows in general are the only place I really feel super happy and super alive, as it were, you know? That's the only place.
Yeah, man. That's both great and dark.
Well, sometimes that's just how it is.
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
That's true.
So they're amplified, really. What you're saying is the experience is elevated. You're feeling things that are extreme. And, like, the cool thing about it is a lot of people are brought to Frank or to MCR because they identify with the struggle, but then they're placed in this situation of euphoria. So it's like the extremes of the band are like part of the magic, the extremes of people loving and hating them, of the way that we feel when we listen to them. It's just, Sorry. I tend to ramble. I just love talking about them so much.
I mean,
Here we are.
We get it.
We said we love talking about them so much, and everyone hates when we talk about them so much that we have to make a special place for us to talk about them a lot.
Yeah, we have to make a designated space.
But I do have a question. How did you first get into MCR? Like, what was your first introduction to them?
I was 15 at the time, or no, 14, sorry. It was 2004. I was 14, and at the time, like, Fuse TV was a big thing. I was kind of more into metal music at the time. And MTV and Fuse and MTV2 would show this commercial for 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. And it was the commercial, I think it, like, part of it might be on Life on the Murder Scene, where Gerard has the microphone, he's like, hip hip, hooray, and, like, the crowd's, like, yelling and stuff. And I saw that, and I got this feeling, like, just that commercial. Like, it wasn't really even anything, but I got this feeling, I was like, oh, this is something I'm gonna be a part of. And
wow. It's like a prophecy.
I know, yeah. I'm a little bit psychic, guys. I don't know if you know this about me. So yeah, it felt fateful almost that I encountered it, and then I saw the original video for I'm Not Okay, the live video with them in the van. And in particular, there was this one shot of Gerard, and he's in the back of the van, he's looking out the mirror, he's kind of like, the window, he's kind of like brushing his hair out of his face, and he just looks miserable. And I remember, like, looking at that and being like, this music understands me. I understand this man. And from there, it was just like, the second I heard I'm Not Okay, I watched the video, I was like, yeah, this is something I have to be a part of. This is me now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is like you were called to MCR.
Yeah, it's a true calling.
It really was. I believe in fate and energy and things like that. And I feel like the trajectory of my life and the trajectory of their careers has kind of overlapped. Like, all these big moments in my life would overlap with big moments in their careers. And I really do think that there was, like, something in the universe that was like, yeah, you are meant to be a part of this.
We can only hope to be called to something as great as that.
I know.
Magic. But you were. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be doing this if you weren't, inspired and brought to this and, like, had that urge to, want to create yourselves because of this thing they created.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. There's more of a lag time, I think, with us. But I think that happens with a lot of fans, that they get, not necessarily in these specific ways, but that MCR becomes critical to, like, their existence, which I think is different than the fandom that a lot of other bands have.
Right.
For whatever reason.
I don't know. I think it's just the energy of the band and the passion that they put into what they created. They kind of attract this loyalty and this dedication that a lot of other bands don't attract. And it creates kind of a special culture with the fans.
Yeah.
To me, it's like they have this narrative, and the music is so deeply personal to people, but at the same time, it's vague enough that it can be yours, and the storylines are vague enough that you can enter that world and be a part of it. And once you're immersed in something that deeply, it's the whole notion of the fact that it becomes your own. So in a way, like, MCR, like, is inside of you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yes. It's been inside you this whole time.
The magic is in your heart.
It's an idea.
Oh no!
Oh god.
That is what he meant, though, right?
It is. That's
It's what
exactly what he meant.
It hurt, but it's what he meant.
Yeah.
The pain. But the truth.
So how did the name Cassie the Venomous come about? Is that just something that you created kind of like as an online handle? And because you're for sure known as that on the internet.
Yeah. So I was, when I got on MySpace and the MC Army, everyone had these cool names, like Sarah Razorblades, or like, I don't know, like Batwing Bethany. Like, everyone was super cool. And I, was super MCR, and I was like, I want a cool name. But first it started with Poison and Fire, which to me, again, I was 16 and I convoluted all these things, but now that's me forever. I'm Poison and Fire. There's no getting away from it. It came from the fact that MCR mix all these substances into their music, like, you've got butane, you've got cyanide, you've got poison, venom. So the poison came from that, and then fire, to me, it was like, it could be a verb, or it could be two nouns. So it could be poison and fire nouns, or it could be like, I poison you, and thank you for the venom, I fire at you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Honestly, that's brilliant.
Wow. I was just like, I went through it forever. I was like, what do I want to be? And so the Venomous thing sort of came from that same substances, venom, poison situation. But on MySpace, like, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be cool so bad. I'm never gonna be cool, and I never was cool. So I, like, made a hybrid name. Like, I took the word demolition.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried to call myself Demolitia.
Oh my god.
I wanted that to be my first name. And then I always loved the concept of, like, name the, worst. Or, like, Charles the Smelly. I don't know. So you know what? I gave up Demolitia. It was a lot. And I don't think anyone got it. So, I was like, you know what? I'll just do my first name. And I'll compromise by being the something. So I became the Venomous. I think it was, again, back to Thank You for the Venom. That was, like, my shit at the time. Can I swear? Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. So it's going to happen a lot. So Thank You for the Venom, and then Cassie the Venomous, and then, yeah, there are two people in real life who call me Venomous. And, well, I mean, I guess other people probably do, but to my face, Jason Pettigrew, the editor-in-chief of Alternative Press, and one of my good friends, and fucking Frank Iero.
Oh my god. Wow, that is so iconic.
I just remember one time, it was like after a show, I was trying to leave, and he and Ed needed something from me for an alternative press shoot that we were doing, and I guess he was, like, saying my name, like, he was saying, like, Cassie, like, trying to get my attention, then he was like, Venomous, and I, like, turned.
Oh my god.
So, that's me now, forever.
Wow.
That is absolutely incredible.
A true icon.
Yeah, so that's the story of the name that I will forever have now.
Wow. Demolitia, I mean, I'm really glad that you stuck with Cassie the Venomous. I feel like that's the winner. But Demolitia, if you ever become, like, a wrestler or something, I think that would work for you there.
Yes. That's the next phase of my career.
Oh, here it comes. You heard it here first.
It's exclusive. I think your move would be, like, elbowing people, like, dropping onto them and elbowing them in the chest or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what my power would be. I guess wrestlers don't really have powers, do they? They just have
a character.
You could. Yeah, that could be like a character.
Okay, yeah, I'm more into the character. Like, I'll have powers.
Right. I like it.
Sweet.
In a costume.
In a costume.
I'm not responsible for the costume, though.
Okay.
I can't take that job on as well. I have a question, but it feels like a big question.
That's fine. Give it to me.
You've interviewed different members of MCR, and I guess I just wanted to know if you had a most memorable moment of that or a most memorable interview.
See, here's the thing. Is people think that I've interviewed them a lot because I've been around them when they've been interviewed a lot. But Jason, who I mentioned earlier, like at AP, has this long rapport with them. Mm-hmm. So he was like usually the one who was talking to them. I guess the one that I did was a video interview with Frank, or a few of them. And this happened. It was so sweet. So Frank and Laura Jane Grace, when Against Me and The Celebration were on tour together, came into the office and they did an acoustic session. And it was lovely, of course, like they're both lovely, but Laura Jane had her daughter with her. and we had like puppies in the office, and I just like remember this really sweet human moment where Frank was just like running around in circles with her daughter, just like playing with her kid, you know? And I was like, oh yeah, Frank's a dad. Like, look at him. Look at what a great dad figure this is. And yeah, and like playing with the puppies and stuff. And I was like, this is just a lovely chill day. Except it wasn't chill. It was 800 degrees in there.
Oh my
but
goodness.
it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. Laura Jane's wonderful. He's wonderful. It was just like good people, good vibes.
Yes.
Good vibes.
That's so touching.
I love it.
So, like, yeah, in a professional context, that might be one of the sweetest memories I have, I guess, with them.
That's cool.
That's tender as hell.
Yes.
I love that acoustic session.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it is.
I'm super obsessed with it. Do you have a question, Haley?
I wanted to talk about My Chem Chat because I was so involved in it when I was a teenager, and it was something I looked forward to every week, and I was very, like, no matter where I was, I didn't have a smartphone when I was in high school, so I had Twitter set up so, like, it would send texts to my phone, so I...
Is that why you do this? Is that why you only message me on Twitter and don't text?
Yes.
Oh my god. Mystery solved.
Did you, well, sorry to interrupt, but did you guys have Gerard on Twitter text alerts when he was looking for the Trans Am?
Yes.
Because that was a nightmare. I woke up, well, I tried to go to bed, but, like, I wouldn't turn my phone off because I wanted to see everything they tweeted, because they
Right.
tweeted a lot at that point. And so, like, I was actually on vacation. I was staying in a hotel with my mom and my best friend, and my phone was like, bling, 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 just constantly. And my mom was like, what the hell is that? Like, turn that shit off. And I'm like, it's Gerard. He's looking for a car. Like, so many tweets. So many fucking tweets. And it used to send you the ones that he replied to as well. And... what a mess. Anyway, MCR chat. I'm sorry. I got excited.
Saga.
That's fine. I love these stories. That was the same thing that I did as well. As I would go to sleep and I would wake up to like 40 text messages and it's all Gerard just looking for his car. So I used to, when I was in school and it would go on and I wasn't at my computer, I would have the MCR chat texted to my phone and I would text back replies. And that's how I participated. And then I would get on the computer immediately when I got home and look at what everyone was saying and interact with everybody. So I just wanted to ask kind of how that got started and how it got so big and how do you kind of feel about it now?
Yeah, I love MCR chat. I still love it. I just like never have time to do it. I always think about doing like an off day chat on one of their birthdays or something, or like Frank's is coming up, like I don't know, but like special edition chats. But Twitter has changed so much that it would have to be reformatted at this point.
Right.
Basically, I think what it would look like now if we did an MCR chat would be like the questions and then in the comments everyone talks, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Since that's more the way that, or people quote tweet if they want to share it on their timeline, but yeah, it would be like a totally different format. So it started because I was obsessed with Twitter, like the second I got on it, because I'm a writer, and when you're a writer and you have somewhere where you can just run your mouth, it's great. So I was in journalism school at the time, and some of our classes would do this hashtag chat called Journ Chat, like journalism chat, and I was like, this is cool. There aren't many people in this, but it's a cool concept. And I was like, hold on a minute. Look what I can do. And so I established it, and I sort of took that idea and I upgraded it some. I gave it rules because I was very like, don't talk about their personal lives, like stop spreading rumors, don't invite them to the chat, like I had like moderation to it because I was a control freak. I mean, it worked, but I do acknowledge now that I was very much like, you can't talk about this.
No, I think that was kind of necessary at some times. Do you remember Mikey Gate?
Mikey Gate was...
Oh my god.
Of course I remember Mikey Gate. All right, so for those of you who don't know, so MCR chat worked thusly. I, as at My Chem Chat would designate 2 hours on Twitter to chatting. We would have a certain amount of questions, 8, and each one would have a 15-minute discussion period. So people would answer the questions. So I would say, like, Q1, what's your favorite MCR song? And people would respond, like, Q1, I love Thank You for the Venom. Venom is just everywhere today. And then they would hashtag it with MCR chat so that other people could see it and respond. And it just accumulated a feed that was almost like a live chat. It was just on Twitter. So everyone saw it and was annoyed by it. So which is why I had to create 2 accounts so that I could participate. So yeah, that was going on. So basically I had these, like, it had a structure, and people who came in were introduced to the structure, and it flowed very well because of that. However, someone at one point replied to Mikey and was like, Mikey, like, come to the chat. And I was like, no, don't do it. And so Mikey hashtagged MCR chat, let's do it. And then the tag was just flooded. And I was like, it was like me and all the regulars just, like, really trying to establish order. And then Mikey, he tweeted after a while, because we were, like, so, like, trying to get things back together. He was like, oh, I didn't realize there were rules, MCR chat. So yeah, basically Mikey acknowledged MCR chat, and it went insane. Like, it was crazy. And I ended up asking him about that at a meet and greet, I believe. And I was like, so I do that MCR chat on Twitter, and one time you came into the room. And he was like, I think Frank responded, and he was like, oh yeah, I was there when he did that. Okay. And yeah, so that must have been a laugh for them, like, having a million people coming through and being like, don't do this, stop. But yeah, I mean, it got it some more followers, but honestly, like, the followers were more of an organic thing. Like, as people came in and talked, more people wanted to talk, and yeah, so MCR chat was a fun time, and I looked forward to it every weekend. And as I started to get busier, I would have to, like, put it, you know, on a schedule and, like, make it automated, and I, like, hated that. And and then I got a job, and it, like, sort of fell to the wayside. But like I said earlier, I would love to do some one-offs and just sort of figure out a new format for it, which I think is what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. It would definitely have to be different now, the way that Twitter is formatted. Mm-hmm. I think it would be really interesting to do it, and especially with the new fans that are in the fan base now. You know, they probably never even, some of them have maybe never heard of it, or they have heard of it and follow it but never participated or something. And I think it would be really cool for the new fans to be able to, you know, participate in that kind of community. Mm-hmm. Like a positive community. Mm-hmm.
It's so funny, too, because now I'm thinking about early Twitter and how easily we could get things to trend.
Yeah.
Like, the account MCR fans and IMCR Day, or International My Chemical Romance Day. I always call it IMCRD. Like Chef Boyardee.
Oh my god.
But yeah, we would, like, set up things, and we'd be like, hashtag happy birthday Ray Toro, let's trend it. And it would trend, like, underneath One Direction. Yeah. And then they started, like, blocking us. Eventually we got shadow banned on, like, every tag. Like, we couldn't hashtag MCR anymore. Like, no. Twitter was just like, they're up to something. This is not organic.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's impossible to get an MCR tag trending now.
Yeah.
People try really hard.
That was our fault. It's early Twitter's fault.
Oh, early Twitter's fault.
Hashtag MCR come to Brazil.
Oh my god.
No, I
Brazil
remember it.
always begs, like, Brazil has got such a dedicated fan base for, honestly, not just MCR, for, like, all music. Everything. Of asking people to come to Brazil. Yeah. What is it?
I don't know.
It's so funny. Taking Back Sunday's manager actually tweeted the other day that people were replying, come to Brazil, and then with, like, crying emojis, to a tour poster that had dates in Brazil.
Oh my gosh. It's just a reflex now.
Honestly, I don't even believe it's the Brazilians. I think it's the Russians. I think those are bots.
It's a conspiracy.
I think it's
a
like a
bot
really long
conspiracy.
con.
Long con. Oh my gosh.
If you're Brazilian and listening to this, please write to us and explain how this occurs.
I think it's just like not many people go to South America, and they have like, I guess probably something happened culturally where some sort of rock thing made a huge impact, and now you have all these like insane starving rock fans down there who are like, please come feed us with your music.
Right.
And they're just like down there like, please come to us.
The rest of my questions are MCR related questions.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
I feel good about it. How do you feel about it?
I feel great.
Cool. The first
I feel
one
great.
The first one is so heavy.
Oh shit. Okay.
So MCR has been dead for 5 entire years, but the fandom still lives on. I guess I just wanted to know, like, does that surprise you, or what are the factors that you think go into that after, a band has broken up, and yet still there's like a really dedicated fan base that still actively does things like podcasts, like zines, and like they're still written about so much. I feel like that's a little bit rare, and I guess I just wondered if you had any thoughts about it.
Yeah, I do, and I've been saying this since before R.I.P. I feel like they did something so different and so unique that it put them on the level of a band like Nirvana, who are immortal now. Like, people love them even more than they did when they were around. I think when you create a work, like I said earlier, that people are able to insert themselves into, you create a legacy with those people. So even if the band is not a moving part, they have this machine that continues to create. So you have all of these people who have invested in them, or who have seen themselves, for instance, as a killjoy, or have seen their art and created art of their own, and it continues to inspire. And so you have you also have things like big brothers and big sisters being like, I love this band, and like the younger kids being like, ooh, I love this band too. My best friend is actually a 7th grade teacher. And she has, her 12 and 13-year-olds, like, they know that she went to, like, a million Revenge shows, and, like, she was around back then because we did everything together. And they have so many questions for her, and they'll bring up things. They'll be like, what do you think of Gerard's hair? Like, can you believe Gerard's beard? And she'll be like, yeah, sure, man. Yeah. They're like, it's like they're the same kids. They're like, writing fan fiction to each other, like they're they're doing the same stuff, they're still creating. And so I think that the crux of the situation is that MCR created a situation where people could continue their legacy without them, so they can continue by making their own stuff and making it their own. There's also this thing lately, which I have some issues with.
Tell us about
it. No, nothing to do with like legit like baby MCR fans. Like, I love baby MCR fans. Please come here to your Aunt Cassie. I'll take care of you. It's the emo nostalgia thing. Mm-hmm. And so those of us who were around back in the day know how problematic like the emo tag was with MCR. And now it's finally become what people were using it as back in the day, as a sort of catch-all for music that was inspired by punk and hardcore, basically. That's the umbrella. And so now there are these things called emo nights that people go to. And there are, a lot of people now who are finally coming around to, this band was great. Back in the day, they weren't cool, so I was really shitty about them and shitty to their fans. But now I'm like, yeah, I'm not okay. And then they're just like singing along and like as if they're one of us. And it's okay. So here's the thing about it. it wouldn't be frustrating to me if back in the day these same people hadn't used like homophobic slurs against us and like wanted to beat up the kids who listen to MCR and like, you know, were like mean because they like mean to kids like us, you know? So nowadays when I see people who I know are just like, oh yeah, it's cool to like MCR now, so I can be cool, I can like them. Like, okay, all right, you can like them outwardly, but also you forfeited your right when you called them faggots. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, hardcore agree.
Yeah, we've talked about that a few times on this podcast about like the difference between like just the other day we were listening to other podcasts that like talked about revenge or talked about MCR, and there are so many, honestly, and a lot of articles that got written about them, and it's so different, people's attitudes towards them now than in like 2007 when it was just so toxic to the fans of MCR, to MCR themselves. I don't know what to make of that exactly, but I think I kind of have some similar feelings as you, like emo nights and stuff where it's like a cool nostalgic thing, but you're like, it wasn't cool at the time.
No. And I know James Dewey's said that he, you know, some people like DJ the emo nights, and he did, I think, a DJ session of an emo night one time, and he was playing like old school emo, like 90s, and you know, the original bands that were classified as emo, but everyone was like, what are you playing? And he was like, oh, you want this kind of emo. So he like started playing, you know, Taking Back Sunday, My Chemical Romance, The Used, and Panic at the Disco, and blah blah blah. And he was like, okay, but all of these bands, like, you know, I'm playing certain bands that are classified as emo that maybe aren't as well known, and you guys are jamming to this, but you could just go to one of their shows. Like, you could give the band
most
money.
Of them still play, except for
like,
one.
Yeah, and you can support these bands, but you're going and listening to tapes of these bands or like CDs or whatever of these bands that are not live, and someone's just playing them like you're at a club or something and you're just jumping around. And so James Dewey was like, I totally don't understand it. Which I get that for sure. But I think the nostalgia factor is a big thing, especially right now for emo culture.
Yeah, it's finally cool to like them. There's this like classic factor where they're like, now they're respected, whereas back in the day people would be like, I don't know what this thing is that you're doing. Like,
this guy sounds whiny.
Yeah,
I don't like him.
I don't understand. So yeah, are you killing kids? No, stop. Literally, literally, they were saying that, basically.
Yep.
No, they did. It was a wild time.
It was crazy.
It's weird. But does any band that has ever become like a classic know they're gonna be a classic? Like, is any classic band like cool in their time? Like, maybe not. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. Except for maybe like Queen or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm thinking about Queen and I'm like, always legends.
Yeah, pretty much since day one. Like,
I feel like I'm not old enough to know. Like, I feel like Nirvana was pretty well enjoyed while they played. I mean, there was definitely still like a mainstream element of adults that were like, what is this noise that isn't music? But generally got good critical reception. I don't know. I think we've wondered that amongst ourselves a lot about why MCR got so much fucking hate in the mid 2000s. I think our like general consensus is that the mainstream is never kind to things that have a lot of young female fans.
Yeah.
But do you agree with that, or do you think there are other factors?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. That's been a problem forever. I actually wrote an article about that as well, called In Defense of the Fangirls. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's been a problem. Like, I don't know, like, people get mad at people for having passion for things. Like, people pick on, you know, people who like comic books and video games and anything where someone is enjoying something in a way that people perceive as too much. And it especially happens with young women, because there's the factor of people thinking that it's a vanity thing, or it's I don't know. It's so stupid that in a world where, you know, women had to go through like torture back in asylums in the day for being hysterical, people are still like managing a way to dismiss women for being hysterical because we feel shit. I don't know. It's really stupid. All very stupid.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that you said that people pick on other people who have passion for things, because I think that is sort of like one of the main tenets of MCR, is that they're people who got picked on for being passionate about things. And so there's this weird feedback of they got a lot of hate in 2007, but also they're a band that kind of feeds off of being the outcasts.
Yeah,
and so they were like,
sure.
fuck it, this is our brand.
Yeah, we're going to claim being outcasts. And I think Gerard especially, obviously, he clung to that as well as in his solo music and all of that. He still doesn't feel like he fits in. And I think that I think he enjoys that. I think most of them enjoy that.
I wouldn't necessarily want to be like, I don't want to be anyone but myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a good thing, I think.
I think he enjoys it, but when we get to Parade, I'll talk about this more. I do think that it was also kind of the beginning of the end for the band, because I think it also hurt. I think he got hurt.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way that you can face this huge media backlash and not take at least some of it personally.
Yeah.
There's no way. I don't care how thick your skin is.
And you'll notice, too, like in the earliest interviews with MCR, it wasn't necessarily so much of a crusade for the outsider, but as they started realizing that they weren't fitting in the music scene and that the people who listened to them identified that's more when it kind of became the mantle they took on. And I definitely feel like that's a lot of pressure to sort of be the mouthpiece for the disenfranchised,
Yeah.
And that's definitely a pressure that, whether they meant to or not, they ended up putting themselves into.
Yeah, I agree. And I think eventually, he said in interviews before that he didn't want to do that anymore, to be the person that people relied on for a hero or life-saving music.
Yeah, he didn't want to be the savior. He didn't want to be put up on that pedestal anymore.
Yeah,
So
it was, I believe, Frank and Gerard used to say a lot, like, we're glad that we were able to get you to that point, but ultimately it's you who saved yourself.
Right.
Yeah, they really wanted kids to take credit for, being able to pick themselves back up. And a lot of people just didn't realize that. They were like, oh, they're this magic cure, because people are always looking for a magic cure. But yeah, toward the end, the band were very much like, you did this. You know that you brought yourself out of this. It wasn't just us. And yeah, it was definitely like, we don't want this responsibility anymore. It's so much for a person to have to handle. Like, can you imagine having thousands of people being like, you saved my life single-handedly. I owe you my life.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. That would be a lot to handle.
I just pictured, I'm, sitting by my window. I'm picturing 1,000 people pounding on my window and being like, you saved my life! And me just, crying in a corner. Like, no, we didn't!
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty similar experience, at least mentally, as to what MCR had. They're like, no, we really didn't. We were just making music that we like, and you listened to it, and you found support and inspiration in this community, and that's awesome. But it wasn't like they came into your room and were like, listen, put the pills down.
Oh my god.
Or like,
please step away.
Oh god.
I don't know why they became slightly Scottish there for a second. Step away.
I think you should lean into it. I think you should do the rest of the interview like that.
Oh no, every time I imitate them, I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it now. And now I feel silly. Someone Scottish is going to listen to this and be like, yeah, fuck off.
That's not a Scottish accent. I'll show you a Scottish accent.
I don't remember if the Scots are on our map of people who are listening to us.
Yeah, they are. We have a few of them.
Well, they're going to come for you, so be prepared.
I love the Scots.
Can't wait. So, speaking of the fans, and, you know, who the band attracts. The band, I think, attracts a lot of queer and female fans, and a lot of people that, you know, who might have been outcasts, especially queer fans in the mid-2000s that were definitely less accepted than they are now, find solace in this band. And do you think that that changes how the band is perceived by outside people, or do you think that that influences how the fandom works?
That's a really cool question. I'm actually going to talk a lot more about this when we get into the revenge section of our interview here, and we talk about, you know, what they do to guys like us in prison.
Oh my god.
Because it's interesting, the narrative, like, back in the day, like, we have a better lexicon to talk about the queer experience and stuff now. Like, back in the day, like, the way to do it was to kind of be, like, blatantly homoerotic and tell everyone who didn't like it to fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, like, that was what MCR did in 2005. But it's cool. It shows the caliber of people that MCR are, that they would say, you know, back on Warped Tour in 2005, Gerard would literally say to the audience, if you're racist, sexist, homophobic, take our CD, break it into 1,000 little pieces. We don't want you here. Fuck off. And I have learned a lot personally through the MCR community about what other people go through, whether it's racially, whether it's because of queerness, whether it's, you know, whatever experience someone is having. Like, we accept each other and we want to talk to each other because the band always accepted all of us and wanted to be a place that was safe. And I think that as far as, like, outside perception, like we were discussing earlier, a lot of people really discount bands who attract, you know, like, young female fans. And I think that there are really shitty people out there who probably see that a band, you know, has a queer audience as well, and they're like, what is that bullshit? You know? I remember, I actually have an experience where in 2005 I was seeing them in Michigan. It was on a college campus. And, like, people would walk by, just, like, college students, and they would, like, you know, kind of call us names and be like, oh, there's a freak show down at the Convocation Center. Like, someone who literally walked by the line, and my mom overheard them because she was waiting in the car because I was 15. Mm-hmm. And it was, like, you know, early in the morning, I was in line, and I guess this, like, really, like, frat looking guy, like, walked by and was like, there's a goddamn freak show down here at the Convocation Center. And so, you know, in society there are still people who see anyone who expresses any degree of otherness as, you know, like, a freak show. And it's good for our community. It's good for the fans because we're open to each other and we learn about each other and we care about each other. And for the band, I guess that having an audience and giving a safe space to young women and, you know, people of color and whatever sexuality you may have, it scares off the right type of person, right? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it keeps out the racists, the homophobes, the sexists.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was a really important thing too, and I don't want to get too far into it because we're definitely going to talk about it in like a few minutes. But it scared off the right kind of people, the people that we don't want near us, or the people we don't want interacting with us, and the people that, you know, don't understand the message that MCR is trying to put out, or like the vibe that they put out is, you know, everyone is welcome, and if you don't like that, then you're not welcome.
Right, exactly. If you are not welcoming, you are not welcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, last few questions. And this doesn't have to be MCR specific, what's your favorite concert moment that you've experienced?
I always go back to this one story. So, MCR did their theater run in 2008 where they would play shows back to back. They did 2 shows in Chicago at the Congress Theater, and the first day my friends and I, for some reason, I think because of my mom, like, she didn't want to go early. She didn't want to drive us, and we were like, oh, we gotta get a cab, and she's like, I'm gonna kill you. So we were a little later than usual, and we were back farther in the line, probably close enough, though, to get, like, third or fourth row. But anyway, the first day was super unorganized, and we ended up in a stampede, basically, of people running through the doors. Security was really bad. The doors, basically, I think that people shoved open one door and tried to fit through all of them.
Oh my God.
And there were several entrances once you got past the lobby to the theater itself, and people were just running to it, and my feet were not on the ground. That's how compact we are and how fast we're moving. And so my feet aren't on the ground. Literally, someone punched me in the face.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was horrific. It was like a nightmare. It was a super nightmare. And then by the time we got in, like, my friends and I were at the back of the crowd, and we were always the people who got there, like, super early so we could get front row. Right. So to us, that was like, ugh, like, what? Like, this just, like, turned us on our heads. We were like, so it was a really sort of negative experience. The show was great, but the experience getting in there was just, like, traumatizing. Yeah. But that leads me to why this next day was my best experience. So the next day went much more smoothly. Security understood what they were up against, so it wasn't terrible. We got there super early. We did everything that we would normally do. Like, when I get to shows later, like, when it was MCR shows, I would feel like, those dreams you have where you're trying to get somewhere, but you, like, are running and it's in slow motion. Yes. Like, that's how I felt that first day. Like, I couldn't get there. Like, I was like, oh, God. Okay, so the second day was much better. We got inside. We got past the lobby. And then the big doors to the theater. Oh, also that day, I had to use the restroom, and the box office let me into the venue early, nice. And, like, the MCR flag was still hanging up, like, disheveled, and I was like, oh, weird. Like a weird, empty situation. I've never seen this. Anyway, that was off track. But, so we get to, like, the main doors of the theater, and there's a security guard standing right in front of us, because we're at the front of the pack. And he's just standing there, like, very calm, and we're like, yes, please stay calm. And they open the doors, and these security guards put their arms out, like, like wings. And they're like, walk. So they're walking backwards, and we're all walking with them. Nice. And he looks at my friends and I. He, like, looks at my friends and I, and he whispers, run.
Run.
Oh my God.
We took off running. I ran so hard that I ran into the barricade and almost flipped over it.
Gosh.
Like, I had to have been going like 12 miles per hour because it was like a slope. And also I was running, and also I was filled with adrenaline, and also the day before was terrible, and I was like, there's no way I'm not getting front row again. And so I hit my knee so hard that my leg was shaking the entire show. I thought it was bleeding. I basically knocked the wind out of myself, but I was in the front row.
That's all that matters.
And that was all that mattered. And so it was this, like, huge catharsis. Like, after everything that had gone wrong the day before, I feel like I felt the music all that much more, and I just cried through the entire set.
Oh, my God.
I just, like, sobbing.
Yeah.
And it was, like, not only because I was hurt, because I was pretty hurt. I couldn't walk the next day, really.
Gosh.
Oh, shit.
But, like, I was, like, oh, I was just crying and smiling and just sobbing, and, like, all through the night, like, after we left, I was still crying and laughing and, like, back and forth. So it was a very, like, it was an extreme high.
Yeah.
And it was an extreme, like, it was just, like, the most extreme experience where, like, I felt, like, every word. Like, Helena, when they played Helena, I almost died. Like, I felt, like, my entire body shaking. Yeah. Like, it was it was horrific and wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, like, we're laughing at this, but, like, is real. That is
We've run.
very real.
I've also injured myself, like, in the New Jersey Frank show because I was braced against the barricade with my knee.
Oh, yeah.
I fucked my knee up with all, like, the thousands of pounds of pressure, you know, pushing against you.
Right.
Yo, so speaking of running, one time my friend and I saw them in Florida for Project Revolution, and it was at this Florida State Fairgrounds, and we were at the gates at the front of the fairgrounds, and the actual amphitheater itself was probably like a quarter mile away, and like, so a distance I don't usually run,
Right.
and we were like at this like tiny little space, and they were trying to contain us, and then they were like, all right, everyone go ahead, and so everyone starts sprinting to the fucking amphitheater. And so, like, I don't run, I'm not a runner,
Right.
and it was 101 degrees, and we ran there, and we got in line, it was fine, but, like, also not fine, my sunscreen melted,
Oh, no.
the venue ran out of ice altogether,
No.
and then there were, like, fan moms. Like, did you guys
yeah.
ever experience,
Absolutely.
like, terrible, like, rude moms?
Yes.
Yes.
Emphatically, yes.
So I was in line. I was probably, like, I don't know, like, 10 back. And this mom comes up, and she's, like, hanging out at the front. And I was like, the line's back here. Like, everyone's always so shy and scared to
Right.
say it, but I had been through enough that day.
Reached
And I was
your-
like, the line's
that's
back
it.
here. And she was like, we've been here. I was like, I got here at 7 this morning. And she was like, they weren't open at 7 this morning. I was like, bitch, I know. I had to run over here. Like, you think I don't know that? I know they weren't open. I didn't run my ass over here for nothing. And yeah, it was insane. And so when they finally opened the gates, like, somehow I jumped over a few fences. Like,
my
I
gosh.
don't know how I did it.
Adrenaline.
I don't know how it happened. I just ended up jumping over 2 fences and being the first one into the amphitheater. So there we go.
That's
Sorry, mean mom.
That's amazing.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
Yeah.
They weren't even open at 7. Please.
I think that's gonna stop me.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And your comment earlier about being carried by the crowd, I had a very similar experience at my MCR show. I was only able to go to one because my mother was not as cool as your mom was about letting me go to shows, especially by myself. But the MCR show that I went to was in Orlando at the House of Blues in 2011. And Circus Survive was one of the openers. And when they were playing, you know, it was a raucous crowd. And I was in the pit, but I was maybe, I don't know, less than 100 feet from the stage, but still a pretty good distance. And when MCR came on, or was about to come on, and the lights went down, the surge forward lifted me off of my feet because people were pressed in so close to me. I was lifted off of my feet and pushed forward with the crowd. And I'm not a small person. Like, I've never been a small person. That is not easy to do. So that was like, it was intense. And the whole show was so intense like that too. It's the same, like, super cathartic experience that you have with this music, and, you know, seeing them in person is super surreal, and it's kind of overwhelming. And yeah, it was all just really a lot.
Yo, I have to tell you about the time that I punched Brian Schechter in the face.
Oh my god.
accidentally.
I'm so ready. Tell me all about it.
Okay, so speaking of, like, horrible concert situations, I saw them in 2005 in Toronto, Canada, and it was, like, in an airport hangar. So basically,
fuck?
it was like, yeah. So it was a venue. I think it's, like, used as, like, a hockey rink. I don't know. Anyway, it was called, like, the Aero Center or something, whatever. So I it was like, I don't know, several thousand capacity, like 7,000 people on like a floor. On
Oh
a
my
floor. So
No
there were no
way.
seats. It's the pressure of that many people.
No
gosh.
way.
Same thing happened at that show where like a million people tried to squeeze through one door. It was crazy. We had to run. I had front row in front of Ray, but there were so many people pushing that the barricades started tipping.
Oh my gosh.
Holy
So
shit, that is my
yeah,
fear.
the
That's my
barricade
fear.
that I was holding onto was actually lurching forward, and the security guards were there, and they were actually like holding it up, like they were like crouched and like holding it. And so I was, I was there, and I wasn't paying much attention to the danger I was in because I was just excited. And anyway, so Brian Schechter's in front of me helping security, and he's like there, and I'm like fist punching like to the lyrics. I'm just like, yeah, like every like syllable I'm doing like a punch.
No.
And I get him right in the
Oh,
chin.
no.
It was like ka-punch. But then, no, so here's what happened. I accidentally punched him, and I was like, oh god, like I just punched their manager, like fuck. I'm getting banned. Like this is the end of it. And he looks down at me and he's like, are you okay, sweetie? And I'm like,
Oh.
am I okay? I just like
Oh.
knocked you one, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm great.
Wow.
I'm glad that you're not banning me from shows forever.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you're not mad that I assaulted you just now.
That's incredible. I think if he's working security and he's up at the front of a crowd like that, he's got to know that
He's
something's
ready.
going to
Yeah.
happen.
He's gonna get punched in the face
Yeah.
by me. Oops.
It's
Like, there wasn't
expected.
a boot to the face.
Also, they have another face punching story.
Oh my god.
How many people have you punched?
Yeah.
No, I didn't punch this
Oh,
time. I
okay,
got
okay.
punched.
Oh my.
Wow, I've gotten punched a lot at MCR shows. How did this
I
happen?
think that's like a
All right, so
statistical
anyway,
anomaly.
2005. So it's 2005. It's the Revenge Tour. It's Columbus, which was the first date. So it was a big deal. The first date of their first like big headlining tour. And there were these girls who had been coming to MCR shows for a while. And basically what they would do is they would show up late, get into the crowd, and then they would leg break
Oh,
people, which is
no.
just like kicking
Yeah.
people in the back of their shins until they were like couldn't deal with it and they would move.
Oh my god.
And so, as luck would have it, I ended up with these girls behind me.
Great.
Shit.
Great, yeah. And so they were like really roughing up my friend. And I was like, okay, this is bullshit. And I was just like, just holding my ground, like staying where I was. And this girl behind me, I heard like a ruckus. And I saw that a girl behind me was passing out. And so I turned around and I was trying to help the crowd like get to her. Like I was trying to help boost her up and get her out. And so one of those girls, one of the mean girls, thought that I was like grabbing for her, and she knocked me right in the face. And so I turned around and I look up at the stage, and Mikey Way's right in front of me, and he looks horrified because he's just seen it happen. So I'm just like looking up and I'm like, fuck, what just happened? Like kind of about to cry.
Yeah.
And I just see the look on his face and I started laughing because I was like, okay,
Yeah, they
great.
know it's ridiculous. They know it's happening.
Like, Mikey just knows they got punched in the face. Great. Perfect.
Wow.
Such violence.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I mean, now when you go to like a Frank show, it's a lot of younger people, so it's a much more chill crowd, except for like the fandom
Except
moms.
for whoever they're playing with.
Except for whoever they're playing with, right? Like the openers or something.
I've been in metal pits. I've been in all kinds of pits. And the roughest crowds I've ever experienced are MCR, Taking Back Sunday, and wait for it, Mayday Parade.
What? Are you serious?
Like MCR, MCR by far the craziest.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten hurt by other people.
Yeah.
And Taking Back Sunday can get pretty wild, but like Mayday Parade, man.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what's happening there.
Like windmill
but like
arms? That's what I imagine.
no, it's not like hardcore dancing or anything. It's just like the crowd itself is just like, yeah. It's like squished together, and it's like a tidal wave, and you're getting bashed by crowd surfers. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
You know, I'm surprised that these kind of bands, like Taking Back Sunday, for instance, is the roughest among the roughest crowds, because we went to Riot Fest, and I was in the pit for Bad Religion. Like in the circle pit. I fell, granted, but I was in the pit. And
for a time.
Yeah, they were all really nice though. They all I was hoisted to my feet by several large men, and I felt like I was ascending.
Mate, I've had the same experience. Like, old school punk rock dudes are the best.
Punks are nice,
like this.
Punks are super nice.
When I was 16, I almost got my ass handed to me in a From First to Last pit, because it opened up, and I was like, I'm just gonna run through this real quick to get closer. And this this lovely bald, like super tall bald man in a Bouncing Souls shirt just like swoops in and grabs me and is like, are you okay, sweetheart? And I'm like looking around me like, oh my god, I just died. And yeah, Anti-Flag pits also are crazy.
I saw Anti-Flag, and their pits were insane. It was like the entire venue sized, and like they did circle pits. It was wild. It was crazy.
But like old school punks, like they've got the code down. They're like, someone falls, you pick them up. Like, don't be a dickbag.
Yeah, they're amazing. I love them.
I love
Those, if you're gonna do like a starter pit or something, you gotta go to old school punk.
A starter pit. I remember Gerard used to appoint people the pit commander.
Oh my god.
And it would be like one like really big dude in the pit who he's like, hey, pit commander.
Oh my gosh.
Like, if someone falls, you get them. Like, god.
It's like being knighted by the queen.
Ridiculous.
It is akin to being knighted by the queen. Pit commander.
Queen Gerard.
Yes.
My only queen.
That's true.
Oh my gosh.
I have two queens. One of my queens is Gerard.
Mm-hmm.
The second queen is that 8-year-old girl named Saga, who just pulled a sword out of the ocean in Sweden. Out of a lake in Sweden.
Yes!
Love her.
That girl.
She's my idol.
She's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay. All right. So my next question is, what is your favorite MCR related thing that you own? Because your collection is extensive.
I actually just got something really cool. Okay, so I have a few things. On that first date of their headlining tour in Columbus that I told you about, they had done sound check, and there were a bunch of us in line. Actually, no, there were probably like 6 of us in line, and it was an outdoor venue, so there was like a gate that you could see through. And Worm went walking by, and my friend and I, being like huge nerds, were like, Worm! And he was like, hi, and like, you know, he came up to the gate, and he just like, you know, he saw us, and he were like, are you guys okay, blah blah blah. And then he came back with a bunch of drumsticks from Bob from Soundcheck, and he handed them out to us, and it's really cool. Actually, it's the MCR Revenge font. It's a Vader brand stick. So on it says My Chemical Romance in the Revenge font, and then it says Bob Breyer, and then it has like the bullets Houdini beside his name.
That is so cool.
It's super cool. Yeah, so that was my favorite thing for a while. Recently, I just put it up on my Instagram. My friend Jason, who I've spoken about before, actually gave me a pass he had from the World Contamination Tour from the day that he was there. And like, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, it is.
I'm trying to think of things that like aren't normal collector's items that I have. I've still like saved confetti from the Black Parade tour and the Revenge tour.
Yeah.
Like, I just have like confetti tucked away. What else? I don't know. My very, very favorite thing. It's hard to pick.
Yeah, I
I love
know.
everything. I love my action figures a
Mhm.
lot. I don't know. So I guess like the more unique things would be, the drumstick
Right.
and the pass and stuff like that. I still have my meet and greet pass from one of the times that I met them. Honestly, like I guess my favorite part of my collection is, God, this is gonna show my age. Jesus Christ. I used to bring 2 Kodak disposable cameras to every show because I didn't have a camera phone. So I would bring disposable cameras to every show. My best friend would always bring them too. So it was like me and my best friend Emily always side by side. And so my favorite thing is probably my collection of all my pictures from all my shows, like millions of these pictures, like duplicates, and like they're shitty too because you couldn't really aim and like they didn't really focus.
Yeah.
But like there are a couple really good ones in there.
Yeah.
Like 2. Yeah.
2 out of
I
thousands.
have 2 of the thousands. So yeah, I guess that's probably the favorite thing because those are actually, mementos that I created for myself.
Right.
Like shitty as they may be, I still love them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Memories.
Yeah.
Insert clip of Memories, the song from Cats.
Oh, I just remembered this. So one of the things that people who know you for is the revenge hair. And while you don't have it currently, that was your signature look for a really long time. And
7 years, I think.
yeah, and I remember when you created the how-to video on how to do that hair. And if you look
Also
up
iconic.
like Gerard Way revenge hair or Gerard Way red hair, you're one of the first people that comes up.
Yeah, it's wild. I miss that hair. I've been thinking about going back to
Really?
it. Yeah. It's so hard to maintain though.
Yeah.
One of my hairstylists once told me that the pigments in red are larger,
Uh-huh.
like on a deep scientific tiny scale. So they wash out faster.
Right.
Mhm.
And like I'm too depressed to dye my hair every week,
Right? Me
man.
too.
I don't want to get out of bed,
Yeah.
like but yeah, no, I kind of feel like I'm not really myself without it. So I think it's gonna need to make a comeback.
Yeah. I'm so excited
This
for
is another
it.
exclusive. Cassie's hair is changing.
With long hair,
What?
especially with long hair, it's really hard to maintain because my hair is super, super long right now too.
Mhm.
And I think I have like a similar color in my hair as to what you have. I have like the under part of it dyed greenish, and it's just like it's a lot. I have to brush it all the time, and like
I don't want to like I'm doing a bit of method acting for this. Like I have my red eyeshadow on. I haven't washed my hair in 8 days.
Amazing.
Like I am Gerard right
yes,
now. It's me,
you gotta
Gerard.
method act.
Support it. Final question.
Yes.
What is your favorite MCR song?
Oh, don't do this to me.
You gotta.
It's required.
That's gonna sound really nice if you're recording. Whoa.
We're not cutting it out.
I'm glad. Should I make more
Yes,
noises?
please.
I'll just make a montage of noises. Fuck. Okay. It has changed over the years. My favorite song for the longest time was This Is the Best Day Ever.
Mhm.
It at one point was The Jet Set Life Is Gonna Kill
Yeah.
You.
Good choice.
And Desert Song,
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
oddly,
Yes.
became like a huge. I stan.
Yes.
And I think this is a weird one too, but I think my favorite MCR song is Boy Division.
What?
This is out of left field. Okay.
I was literally just about to say that.
I mean, Boy Division
So
is
here,
a bop,
wait,
though.
okay, so it's kind of Save Yourself, I'll Hold Them Back,
Uh-huh.
and Boy Division.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, Boy Division is definitely like one of my favorite songs on Conventional Weapons.
Yeah, for sure.
It's for sure a bop. I've never heard someone say it's their favorite. I accept it. I accept
Yeah, it's a
you. I
valid
accept your
choice.
choice.
I like it.
I'm surprised at myself, honestly, about it. But I don't know what it is exactly. It just, that song embodies adrenaline.
Yes.
And it's weird. So, like, most of my favorite MCR songs, or really all of them, are kind of about running away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a recurring theme in their music, and I love that. And, like, Boy Division's, like, not that. It's not a lot of things that I like about MCR, but I'm just like, damn, Boy Division, man.
Yeah.
Boy Division is
Fucking Boy
all of your
Division.
t-shirts suck, and I want ones that are better.
Boy
I'm
Division.
Yes.
really angry about it.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I like that. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us, and it's been very exciting. And
I have been very excited this entire time.
Me too. I've just been
This
like,
is so fun.
my face hurts because I've been smiling the
I
whole
know.
time.
Can you be like a permanent third member of the podcast?
Oh, I would love it.
I mean, I'll pop in.
Yes, be a
Yay.
friend of
I'll
the
pop
pod.
in and spill some bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's been fantastic talking to you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
for being our first guest. And we will absolutely talk to you guys. To you guys, we will absolutely talk to you again.
Both of me. Yeah, we'll both be here. All three of us.
All right. So that wraps it up for today.
Until next time, I'm Kat.
And I'm Haley.
And I am Cassie the fucking Venomous.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
And we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.